This is the Used Car Dealer Podcast.
Well, hello, Zach here, and we have a legend on the podcast today, Chip Perry, the CEO of A2Z Sync, and in two previous lives, the founder and CEO of Autotrader and the CEO of TrueCar, and basically the Michael Jordan of marketplaces. Chip, thanks so much for joining me today.
Nice of you to say thank you very much, Zach. It's very kind of you. I don't deserve those kind of words, but thank you.
Let's get started. And for those listening today, talk about what brought you out to Colorado to be a startup CEO at A2Z Sync.
Well, I've had the great opportunity to be serving car dealers across America for the last 25 years. My earlier chapters were in third-party world. In that role, I was able to see and observe dealers evolving, changing their sales process, the way they go to market. I also had a chance to put an ear to the rail of how consumers perceive the car buying process. And one of the big themes over the years that honestly hasn't changed very much is the general unfortunate negative perception, despite the great work of many dealers across America, the general negative perception that consumers have about the car buying experience. That hasn't gone away, despite all the improvements that have been made across our industry. And so I consider it one of the major unsolved problems. There's lots of issues flying around in automotive right now. It's a time of change. But I felt like this one is one that if I could find a way of being a catalyst to help dealers improve, modernize, streamline, make more customer pleasing the car buying experience, it'd be a worthwhile exercise at this point in my career. So I discovered this company called A2Z Sync in Denver, Colorado, that had been pioneered and started by a dealer group here. It's now a spin-off of that group. It's called the Klempf Group, where they built a platform that enables a much more frictionless, customer pleasing, and also, interestingly, very profitable for the dealer sales process and customer experience. So I joined to help scale the company about almost 2 years ago. So it's been fun so far, and we're starting to take off in a meaningful way. So it's exciting to see what we're doing start to capture the attention of the industry.
That's awesome. And what an interesting change as well for you. So in a lot of the major news outlets, they're talking about the high inventory prices. They're talking about the inventory shortage, the rising price of gasoline, rental cars at an all-time high. What has been your view of these economic challenges for dealers from your lens at A2Z Sync?
Yes. Well, all of us, we go to the conferences, we read the press, and we hear about the operational challenges that dealers are facing, the many issues they're dealing with now. A lot of them are inventory related. The pandemic brought on a lot of challenges around how consumers wanted to work with retailers and the availability of cars, both new and used. The new and used car markets have been turned upside down with the chip shortages and the effect on supply and prices. So while all these challenges are surrounding dealers, at the same time, they are making more money than they've ever made before. So it's a great time to be in the car business, even though it's requiring adaptation and change to deal with the operational challenges. I think that it would be a much different situation if the bottom line was getting squeezed right now. Dealers are making 2 to 3 times the profits that they've ever made before. High watermarks, 2 or 3x. So I think that with the industry swimming in profits, at the same time dealing with operational challenges, there tends to be kind of a focus on the short term. There's a lot of high-fiving going on about the bottom line, deservedly so. At the same time, there's a lot of worry about where the car is going to come from, the supply coming back. And for franchise dealers, what's going to happen with their business model, with the OEM encroachment into that model over time. Independent dealers, feel the effects of changes in the new car market directly. And so I think both sectors, the independent used car dealers of America and the franchise dealers, are feeling some good times, but I think it's also a time of needed introspection around how we get ready for the future when market conditions normalize. That's what I think is most interesting, is what's the thought process around maintaining the success, holding the bottom line, keeping it strong when market conditions normalize, likely in 2023.
Very well put. And this kind of leads me into my next question. So in several of your recent speaking engagements, podcasts you've done, I've heard you talk about the one-person sales model. Why does this make sense for the modern car buying experience?
I think it makes sense because it gives the customer what they want in terms of a time-saving, efficient, transparent process, and it helps the dealer deliver a better experience, grow market share through better word of mouth and reputation in terms of the experience, and also improve financial results through F&I, product sales, as well as sales process efficiency. It makes sense for the future to really be thinking this way, because when market conditions normalize, front-end margins are going to start to compress. And when they start to compress, becoming more efficient will become the imperative. Before the pandemic, when you ask dealers what their main priority was, given margin compression, is to become more operationally efficient. That's tended to kind of fall lower on the priority list in the last couple of years, as they struggle with remote sales, or selling pre-owned cars of your franchise dealer, struggling for inventory, wondering about the prices and where they're going to go given the volatility in the used car market. Am I holding cars at the right price? Those are important questions. But I think that the one-person sales model addresses this fundamental unmet need, which consumers have been voicing for many years. When people talk about likening the car buying experience to going to the dentist, that's not a good thing. And so we live in a capitalistic society where any provider of a good or a service, if they can do it better than their competitors, they're going to get more business from their customers. So the buying experience is the real differentiating opportunity that dealers have, other than having good cars competitively priced and a good supply of them on their dealership facility. It's the experience that really distinguishes them. So I think the time has come to address this fundamental consumer pain point, and do it in a way that also improves the bottom line of the dealership. And the big concern about one-person selling is the worry about, if you let the front line handle the transaction, and some independent dealers, many independent dealers have one-person sales models already, because they're relatively lower volume businesses. They don't have the staff and specialization that larger dealers have. Even those dealers could benefit from a tool that enables the customer to have a unified software experience and having the deal presented, explained, and then transacted. Even they could benefit. But if an independent dealer has an F&I business office, and there's a busy Saturday, there's waiting times, all dealers have an opportunity to improve the customer experience. And I think the conventional wisdom in our industry has been, if you hand it to the front line, you're gonna lose this F&I talent, number one, and number two, your profits are going to drop because the front line won't sell the products the way the finance specialists do. And that's the conventional wisdom that I think is now being disproven by the successful dealers who have adopted a one-person sales model, both with our system as well as with others and on their own across the country. It's a movement, it's in the early stages of a movement in this direction, I believe. And when we step back and we look at the challengers, the intruders, I call them barbarians at the gate, the quote unquote online car sellers. they position themselves as being, we're not dealers. Don't buy a car from a regular dealer. Don't go through all those hoops and friction points. We'll make it easy for you. So they're all they're doing is poaching into the industry with a superficial message that attacks the negative image of traditional auto retailers, both independent and franchise. So why not take that arrow out of their quiver, beat them at their own punch by using your local presence to serve the local market better and capture market share. So I think that we're at a time, a juncture in our industry where, with all these challenges, it's time to retool, it's time to rethink, revamp, re-engineer, restructure the sales process. Let's go for it and make it better for the customer and make more money at the same time.
So with A2Z Sync, with your product, you've basically taken the one-person sales model, some of the F&I technology, credit functionality, basically several different standalone products, and put it into a single tool to streamline this process. Talk to me about developing A2Z Sync and working with the early dealership customers and kind of the early iterations on that product.
So I arrived on the scene almost 2 years ago. The system was built by then and installed in about 20 dealerships across the country. Obviously, the founding dealer group, the Klempf group, and here in Denver was using it, and a few other groups had used it, that started using it. It was developed by a former F&I manager, director, compliance manager at the Klempf group, a former red meat eating finance person. And even though she was skeptical that it could be done, she started with a menu and built it forward. And what she discovered was her expertise and understanding of the nuances of how car deals get constructed and modified during a conversation with a customer. You need to build in a bunch of settings, sequence of presentation that enables the deal to be set up properly in the front through first pencil before credit app, and then leave room on the back after credit is approved for finance products to be presented and sold. So the technology very much supports a customer-friendly, transparent, but also dealer-centric presentation of the deal and negotiation of the deal. So it's the balancing act between simplicity to the customer and transparency and streamlinedness, and balancing that between that and the needs to customize and create settings and nuances that allow the dealer to wrap their personnel and talent around this system and implement in a way that produces great results. So the early dealers who adopted this were all very passionate about removing time from the customer experience, making it smoother and more pleasing. And they were willing to take the leap of faith that they could hold F&I results. Now that we've proven we now have over 40 dealerships working with us, that all of the customers, all of the dealers who embrace this actually do improve their F&I results with this system. So the early dealers were taking more of a risk than the ones who are adopting the system now. And we're excited to be able to share those kinds of case studies with interested dealers and explain the moving parts, both above the line that touch front and back end gross profits, as well as below the line, how sales and F&I compensation expense efficiency can be improved with the one-person model. And we have case studies now that show very clearly that there's hundreds of dollars of improvement per car in front and back end gross, mostly on the back. And then there's also sales process efficiency through the redeployment of F&I people to sales manager roles, and the reduction in overall sales and F&I staff needed, because when the time to create a car deal is reduced, there's more capacity in the sales operation. Also, there's some people that just don't adopt this new method, and they move on to they go to traditional dealerships to do their business. So we're seeing really great financial results, which is very exciting. That's why one of the reasons why I felt so excited about joining this company was it's one thing to want to improve the customer experience, another thing to help dealers improve their bottom line. There's traditionally been kind of a zero-sum game view of that. The more transparency and the more customer friendly it is, there's less gross profit in the deal for the dealer. What we've learned is that employing a system like A2Z Sync with the training that we provide, the experience results in the customer being more receptive at the end to purchasing F&I products. There's rapport that's built. There's a different kind of conversation at the end. It's not compressed. It's not contrived. You got to know the customer a bit along the way. And the transparency of the experience basically causes the guard to come down. And without having to cook and wait in an F&I office for an F&I office experience, they're just at the end, they're more receptive to buying product. So they're happier when they leave and they've spent more money. That's, in my mind, the pure definition of a win-win. And the other constituent that's very important here, besides the customer and the dealer, is the salesperson and the sales manager. This approach improves the life of a salesperson, improves the life of a sales manager, F&I person, because they get a chance to control the whole deal. Salespeople like the fact that they're not passing the customer off to an unknown experience, depending on who they get, how much time it's going to take that day. I've heard a lot of salespeople who work with our system say, wow, I will never go back to the old way if I have the opportunity. I want to keep doing this. And sales managers and former F&I managers who often become sales managers, they get a chance to see the whole deal. Sales managers would pass it off. F&I managers would only see the back end. So now they get to see it all, and they get to orchestrate it from behind the scenes, and they get to coach their salespeople. So the talent and the experience and the knowledge of complete car deals is growing on the team all the time, because it's not siloed and chopped up and specialized in sub-segments. So it really works for the salespeople and the managers. That's what also excites me, to be able to bring a solution to the industry that salespeople like. And it's really fun when you can help them sell cars in a way that they know is better for the customer and better for them and better for the dealership.
Yeah, and I remember you once telling me DISC does it sell cars, and it definitely sounds like A2Z Sync is, filling that goal.
Yes. Well, so, and a lot, this is different than digital retailing. Digital retailing constructs a deal from the outside, and then it ends up colliding with whatever happens in the store. Our system goes all the way through contracting and paperwork and a seamless push into the DMS. And we make sure that the payment calculations that are happening inside our system are matching exactly what the DMS requires. So there's no need to, rebook or rekey into a DMS or have payment numbers not match. Very important. So we've had one of our clients tell us, you actually have the only system that, quote, sells cars, meaning it matches everything throughout on one screen, one tool, one tab, without having to jump around and deal with the friction technically that many kind of tech environments inside dealerships creates today.
So if you took a step back and you're thinking about giving advice to like a smaller used car dealer in this environment where you have fierce competition, the CarMaxes of the world, Carvana's, larger franchise dealer groups, what advice would you give to them?
Well, I think that the independent dealer is the heart and soul and the lifeblood of the automotive industry. I've had the wonderful opportunity to work with them for many years. And I heard an independent dealer once say that we have the privilege of selling the remaining useful life of a vehicle to people so they have the basic transportation they need to conduct their lives. And I think it's a high calling. And independent dealers are among the most innovative and resourceful people on the planet. Single entrepreneurs, they don't have factories behind them. They don't have private equity behind them. They take a risk every day on the car they're going to buy and then find a market for that car in their local community or outside the local community nowadays, given the transparent visibility of vehicles around the country through third parties and through search. So I think that independent dealers are continuing to evolve with technology, picking the best tools that they can. I think that the vendor community is different in the independent world largely than the franchise world, and there's a whole group of very I think aggressive and innovative providers of different kinds of solutions, whether it's a website, a CRM, desking, F&I presentation, DMS, social media. So I think that independent dealers will continue to invest very carefully, surgically in technology that helps them streamline the process. And I think for them to be able to have a marketing message in their local communities that says, we give you very personal care and service and treatment when you come to our dealership to buy a vehicle. We don't have the big fancy factory sign above our store. So we're here to serve our local communities. And we're working on creating a great experience for you to buy a car. So I think that every individual used vehicle is that's not a pure commodity, but the visibility of inventory and the comparability of inventory over the last 20 years has changed so that people do have more choices. They can find similar cars, although conditions vary and the condition varies and the lot of nuances vary. That they feel they can get close to comparability now. And then that leaves the experience as the next big opportunity to differentiate. So I think that I would advise independent dealers to look for ways to address the pain points that people have in the car buying process, and look at the research around and customers' perceptions around car buying as an opportunity. One of the things we can share with any dealers, and I'd like to share with you, Zach, is we've done some research recently where we asked car buyers, how they feel about the car buying process, what they don't like about it, and if they could design the ideal experience, what that would look like. Turns out most people have a negative sentiment about car buying, not a positive one. When you ask people what one word describes car buying for you, 85% of the time it's not a positive word. But that creates opportunity, because if that's in the general perception, we are truly different if we have a better experience as an independent dealer. Next, when you ask them what their main pain points were, it's about time spent at the dealership, the way in which they get turned over and upsold F&I products at the end, and the way there's the back and forth and the time consumption around negotiating the price. Mm-hmm. And then when you ask people if you could design an ideal experience, what would it look like? I'd be happy to share this, and you can share it with your audience.
Definitely.
We then asked them how you could design an ideal experience. The number one is a simple and transparent presentation of the price of the monthly payment. Number two is a fast and efficient process. Number three is a low pressure sales experience. So I think the hallmark of really great companies that have great experiences for the customer is they're obsessed about the customer experience. And that obsession about customer experience can lead to curiosity about what people don't like and what they would like to see happen when they buy a car. So we've done the research that try to help the dealer community know this. I think they instinctively know it, but it's helpful to have a mirror put up. And we did this through a large national survey, talking to car buyers through a research company called YouGov, which is like the modern Gallup poll. So I think that the results of this will spur the curiosity on how can we, as a dealer, stand out from the crowd with a better experience and market it accordingly. So that's what I'm hoping that the independent dealer community takes from my conversation with you today. And why not beat the common industry perception? Why not beat the big used car lot down the street or the big franchise dealer who hasn't addressed the pain points. Why not? So there are many great dealers in America on the independent side, quality dealers all over the place. I had the fortunate opportunity to present quality dealer awards at NADA for 15 years and hear their stories and the passion they have for being great employers and serving their local communities. There are many great independent dealers all across the country, and I think that as busy as they are, curiosity around how to address the pain points that consumers feel in the car buying and having demonstrable fixes to those problems that their store is working on, whether it's with our technology or somebody else's. It's the thought process behind innovating the customer experience driven by customer obsession that I think will lead to great success in the independent world over the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree, especially on the importance of customer buying experience. And lastly, Chip, for the dealers interested in learning more about A2Z Sync, where can they go to get more information about your product?
It's nice of you to ask, Zach. By the way, I want to compliment you on, as a young company that is helping dealers with technology, spending some time not selling your own stuff, but creating an environment where people around the industry can give their views and advice, and it's a high-minded and very positive thing you're doing. So any independent dealer in America can learn about us by going to A2ZSync.com. My cell phone is 404-277-1945. And I'm at Chip at A2ZSync.com. We have some independent dealers we're working with today. And we look forward to working for more and serving them as passionately as every company I've ever worked for has worked with dealers. I believe strongly in helping dealers win and succeed, and the only way that a provider can have a place in the world, in the busy world of and challenging world of auto dealers, is to help them win. And that's what I'm trying to do here at A2Z Sync.
Wow, it's been a great episode. Absolute legend on the podcast. Chip, thanks so much for joining me today.
It's awful nice of you to have me, Zach, and good luck in your business. I know you're doing great.
This is the Used Car Dealer Podcast.